rest of the AFC East is still having their own issues. The Bills defensive coordinator, Leslie Frazier, he's just going to go ahead and, take the year off. Plus, free agent all-pro safety Jordan Poyer is talking about playing somewhere with warmer weather in a state that doesn't take half of his money. And as for the Dolphins, Tua Tagovailoa was not cleared from concussion protocol until earlier this month. His status is far from automatic. Jets don't even have a quarterback, desperately flirting with the one and only Derek Carr. All right, let's welcome in our panelists, our esteemed panelists for today. I've got Phil Perry, Tom E. Curran, and from WEEI, Andy Hart. Curran, let's start with you.
Sure.
Have the Patriots closed the gap in the AFC this offseason just by hiring Bill O'Brien? Am I wrong?
No, you're exactly right. I mean, the number one issue that they had was offensive coaching. And you can say, yeah, maybe Mac Jones was responsible for a portion of it, but I'd still find it a very tiny portion. Same thing goes for the weapons. You are adding not just a very competent and excellent offensive coordinator, you're subtracting guys who actively made the offense worse as coaches. So to me, they've closed the gap. It's not like they're going to sit around over this acquisition period, which hasn't even really started, and say, yeah, we're good. But I think that they are kind of good because that was the biggest hole.
I think they got back to the line of scrimmage. I think last year was just a debacle. They made a terrible decision, so they were sacked for a 10-yard loss. Next play, we get back to the line of scrimmage. We do the obvious thing. We get Bill O'Brien, right? Well, it's still 3rd and 10. I still need to see some things because you don't feel great about 3rd and 10, right? And that's where I would say it was obvious. It's great. But I would look at the Jets. I think the Jets made the obvious move, too. They're looking for a quarterback. If they don't have Zach Wilson as their quarterback last year, they probably go to the playoffs, right? Defense, talented offensive playmakers. So to say you won the offseason in the East at this early rate, little early.
It hasn't even started. The offseason hasn't started. The acquisition period hasn't started. But they've already addressed their most important issue.
They have, but they haven't closed the gap. They've narrowed the gap. The gap's still there between the Bills, especially, and the Patriots. And I said really all last year through last season that I didn't feel like the gap was all that wide between the Dolphins and the Patriots all year, even with Tua missing time and the Dolphins losing games towards the end of that season. I don't believe in the quarterback, and I still don't believe in the head coach. Two pretty key pieces to any football franchise. So I would say, unlike Tom, I think they need to do a lot of work in terms of the personnel on the roster. But they have narrowed the gap just by hiring Bill O'Brien. Sure, I'd go there.
Have the Bills, though, come back to the pack? Like, we've seen them they're clearly not as good as the Chiefs, and one could argue they're not as good as the Bengals. And now they've lost their defensive coordinator. You've got a safety who has been integral to their defensive plan. He may leave. Josh Allen didn't look like the Josh Allen we thought we might see, especially in the second half of the season.
I think there's a chance the Bills may have peaked. I really believe that. Poyer could be gone. I think the even more important defender is going to be a free agent this year for them is Tremaine Edmonds, the young linebacker right in the middle of the field for them. You lose Leslie Frazier for a year now. And not only, I still believe in Josh Allen. He had his hiccups last year for sure, no question. But his cap hit goes from $16 million last year to $39 million this year. This is where it starts to get complicated for the Bills to be able to compete with a quarterback on that big salary, Tom. They have to really start hitting on their draft picks.
Yeah, it's all draft picks and guys like Tremaine Edmonds who are so valuable. One of the better defenders in the NFL, really. If you can't re-sign him and Poyer goes, you're down the middle of your defense seeing some attrition.
Yeah, this feels like a post-Super Bowl champion team that didn't actually win a Super Bowl, right? You lose your offensive coordinator. The next year we're talking about, the quarterback looked like he regressed a little bit. Then you start losing complementary but key defensive players, right? You still have your quarterback, so you're still a contender, and that's usually what happens after you win the ring, but because they're Buffalo, they don't have the ring.
Losing coordinators back-to-back, think about that.
Yeah.
You lose Leslie Frazier, Brian Daboll, and, there's also the culture and the mindset of the team, and by the end of last year, it wasn't really great. I mean, they expected to be much better. So to me, what's the mindset of each of these teams? I think the Patriots, I've said it before, I'll say it again, they're going to feel like somebody who just came across the desert and are being handed a glass of water in the person of Bill O'Brien.